The morning sun cast long shadows across Central University's newly built interstellar exchange wing. Tom stood in front of the chrome-plated building, adjusting his environmental suit for the 1000th time. The suit wasn't really necessary for him, but every other student wore one. It was part of the deal. Humans had to hide their organic nature to avoid disturbing the more advanced species. "Welcome, new students," the dean's voice echoed through the hall. She was a being of pure energy contained within a floating metallic sphere. "You are part of history, the first ever interstellar exchange program between Earth and the Galactic Union." Tom looked around the orientation hall. Dozens of alien students floated, hovered, or stood on crystalline appendages. Some were pure energy forms, others were silicon-based crystalline beings, and a few were plasma entities contained in high-tech suits. He was the only human in the room, though no one knew that yet. The dean continued floating across the stage. "Each of you will be paired with a roommate from a different system. This partnership will promote understanding between our various species." Her energy form pulsed with each word. "When I call your designation, please approach the stage." Tom waited nervously. The environmental suit felt stuffy, but he'd learned to live with it. The university's policy was clear. Humans, being water-based organics, were considered too primitive and potentially disturbing to other species. It was easier to let everyone assume he was a silicon-based life form like many others. Designation TB 1997, paired with crystal entity blue from the Orion system. Tom stepped forward, his boots making metallic sounds against the polished floor. Next to him, a crystalline being moved with graceful precision. Blue's form was beautiful, transparent crystal with swirling patterns of light inside, roughly humanoid in shape, but with faceted surfaces that caught and reflected light in mesmerizing ways. "Greetings, TB 1997. Blue's voice came through as a pleasant harmonic resonance. "I look forward to our educational partnership." "Please, call me Tom," he replied through his suit's speaker. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Blue." They were assigned to room 427 in the exchange wing. The room was split into two distinct environments. One side was equipped with a crystalline regeneration chamber for Blue, the other with what appeared to be a standard relaxation pod, but was actually a cleverly disguised human living space. "Your environmental preferences have been noted," the room's AI announced. "Crystal entity Blue requires thermal stability and silicon-rich atmosphere. Entity TB 1997 requires standard silicon-based environmental conditions." Tom breathed a quiet sigh of relief. His religious preference for privacy had been properly registered in the system. It would let him eat, sleep, and be human in his private chamber without raising suspicion. Blue began arranging their crystalline study materials. "I am most interested in learning about different technological approaches. My system specializes in quantum crystalline computing." "What is your specialty, Tom?" "Engineering, with a focus on adaptive systems," Tom replied carefully. It wasn't a lie. Humans were indeed masters of adaptation, though not in the way Blue probably imagined. As they settled in, Tom couldn't help but feel both excited and nervous. Here he was, one of the first humans to attend an interstellar university, pretending to be something he wasn't. The irony wasn't lost on him. Humans had dreamed of meeting advanced alien life for centuries, only to find that they needed to hide their true nature to be accepted. Through his suit's visor, Tom watched Blue arrange their crystalline form into a steady position, tendrils of light swirling inside their transparent body. This was going to be an interesting year, trying to keep his organic nature hidden, while living with someone who could literally see through walls. The sun set over Central University, casting rainbow refractions through Blue's crystalline form. Tom headed to his private chamber, supposedly for silicon regeneration, but really to eat his carefully hidden dinner and get some much-needed sleep. Day one of the exchange program was complete. Only 364 more days to go without anyone discovering he was a water-based, organic, very human student among the stars. 2 weeks into the semester, Tom had developed a careful routine. He woke up at 5:30 a.m., before Blue's crystalline form became active, to quickly eat breakfast and handle his human needs. His private chamber had been cleverly modified to hide all traces of organic life. Special filters removed food smells, and a hidden compartment under his bed stored his human supplies. Your morning regeneration cycle is longer than most silicon-based entities, Blue commented one morning as Tom emerged from his chamber. Their crystalline form sparkled with patterns that Tom had learned meant curiosity. Religious requirements, Tom replied through his suit's speaker, using his standard excuse. My particular silicon formation needs extended regeneration periods. Blue's light patterns swirled thoughtfully. Fascinating. I was not aware silicon-based life forms had religions. Tom quickly changed the subject. We should head to advanced physics. Professor Light is covering quantum entanglement today. In class, Tom excelled at the practical problems, but had to be careful during the laboratory sessions. While other students directly interfaced with the quantum computers through their crystalline or energy forms, Tom had to pretend his environmental suit was having interface issues and use the manual controls instead. Your approach is unusually creative, Blue observed during one lab session. Most silicon-based entities follow standard computation patterns, but you seem to find unique solutions. Different environment, different methods, Tom said nervously, noticing how Blue's curiosity patterns were becoming more frequent. The real challenge came during mealtimes. While other students absorbed energy or processed silicon in the common areas, Tom always retreated to his chamber, claiming his religious practices required private regeneration. He had several close calls. Once, he almost forgot to hide a food wrapper, and another time, Blue nearly detected the sound of him drinking water. One afternoon, in the university's central garden, Blue watched the other students sharing silicon formations and energy transfers during their break. Tom, I notice you never participate in communal regeneration. Are you not lonely? I'm used to it, Tom replied, feeling guilty about all the lies. He genuinely liked Blue and wished he could be honest with them. The situation became more complicated during their engineering innovation class. The professor, a plasma being named Bright, assigned a project requiring partners to study each other's base molecular structure to design compatible technology. How shall we proceed? Blue asked Tom after class. Their crystal form displayed patterns of excitement. I find your environmental suit's design intriguing. Perhaps we could begin by analyzing your base silicon structure. Tom felt panic rising. Actually, I have a better idea. Why don't we focus on developing adaptive interfaces, something that could work with multiple forms of life? Blue's pattern showed surprise, then interest. An unusual approach, but potentially valuable. You often think in unexpected ways, Tom. It's quite non-standard for a silicon-based entity. That evening, Tom sat in his chamber, eating a carefully hidden sandwich while reviewing their project notes. He had actually turned his limitation into an advantage. Their adaptive interface design was already receiving praise for its innovative approach. Through the chamber's wall, he could see Blue in their crystalline regeneration chamber, their form glowing softly. Patterns of thought and curiosity swirled within them, and Tom noticed they were accessing the university's database, researching something. He hoped Blue wasn't looking too deeply into silicon-based religious practices. His excuses were becoming harder to maintain, and he'd noticed other students beginning to pay attention to his unusual behaviors. How long could he keep up this pretense? One small mistake, one moment of carelessness, and everyone would discover that there was a primitive organic being among them. Tom finished his sandwich and carefully disposed of the evidence in his hidden waste unit. 350 days left in the exchange program. He just had to maintain his careful routine and keep his human nature hidden. What could possibly go wrong? Dark clouds gathered over Central University as the worst storm of the season approached. Most energy-based and crystalline students found the weather fascinating. They had never seen anything like Earth's wild meteorological patterns. Tom sat in his private chamber, finally enjoying a proper meal after a long day of classes. He had removed his environmental suit and was halfway through eating a bowl of noodles when the first lightning bolt struck nearby. The building's lights flickered. Through the wall, Tom could see Blue's crystalline form vibrating unusually. Their internal light patterns were chaotic, showing signs of distress. Another lightning strike, closer this time. The thunder was instant and deafening. Tom, Blue's harmonic voice sounded distorted. My communication systems are malfunctioning. The electromagnetic interference is. Tom jumped up, but he wasn't wearing his suit. He heard Blue moving toward his chamber's door. This wasn't supposed to happen. They had an agreement about private regeneration time. Wait, Tom called out, desperately reaching for his suit. Give me a moment, Toe. The door slid open. Blue had overridden the lock using their emergency protocols. Their crystalline form entered the room, still vibrating from the storm's energy. I need help with my stabilization. Blue's voice trailed off as their sensory systems processed what they were seeing. Tom stood frozen, very human, very organic, holding a bowl of noodles. No suit, no disguise. Just a water-based, carbon-based human being in all his biological glory. Blue's crystalline form began to destabilize. Their usually smooth surface developed cracks, and their internal light patterns turned into a chaos of flashing colors. Your, Blue's voice crackled with static, organic, water-based, a primitive species. Tom set down his noodles and raised his hand slowly. Blue, I can explain. Please try to stay calm. But Blue was already backing away, their crystal body making sharp cracking sounds. In their society, organic life was considered unpredictable, dangerous, barely more than clever animals. And now they discovered they'd been living with one for months. All this time, Blue's voice oscillated wildly. The private regeneration, the manual interfaces, the creative solutions. You're human. Another lightning strike lit up the room. Blue's form shimmered, their stabilization completely disrupted by the shock of discovery. They started to tip over. Tom didn't think. He just acted. He lunged forward and caught Blue's crystalline form before they could crash to the ground. His hands cradled the cool crystal carefully, stabilizing his friend. Let me go. Blue vibrated in panic. Your organic touch will contaminate. They stopped mid-sentence, their sensors registering something unexpected. Tom's hands were steady, gentle, careful. Despite being primitive, his grip showed remarkable precision in supporting Blue's destabilized form. I'm still the same person, Tom said quietly, helping Blue regain their balance. Still your friend. Still your project partner. I just happen to be human. Blue's crystal structure slowly began to restabilize, but their light patterns showed complete confusion. But humans are. We were taught that organic life is dangerous, primitive, unpredictable. Tom smiled sadly. Maybe we are, sometimes. We're also capable of building spaceships, solving quantum equations, and caring about our friends, even if they're made of crystal. The storm continued outside, but inside the room, a different kind of thunder had already struck. Blue floated in place, their internal lights cycling through patterns of shock, fear, and growing uncertainty. I need to process this, Blue finally said, their voice still shaking. They backed away toward the door, movements jerky and uncertain. Please don't come near me right now. Tom watched his friend retreat, knowing everything had changed. His secret was out, and soon the whole university would know that a primitive organic being had infiltrated their ranks. He looked at his half-eaten noodles and sighed. So much for keeping a low profile. The next morning, Tom's environmental suit felt heavier than usual as he walked into the advanced physics classroom. Blue had not returned to their shared room after the incident, choosing to spend the night in the Crystalline Regeneration Center instead. As Tom entered, the usual soft hum of student conversations stopped. Several energy beings dimmed their glow, and a group of silicon-based students shifted away from his usual seat. Word had spread fast. Blue sat at the far end of the room, their crystal forms still showing unstable patterns. When Tom looked their way, they turned slightly, refracting light in a pattern that clearly meant stay away. Professor Light, the energy being who taught the class, flickered uncertainly. Today's lesson will cover quantum entanglement across organic barriers. Perhaps we should skip this topic for now. Tom felt his face grow hot inside his suit. He was grateful no one could see him blush. The silence in the room was broken only by the soft hum of environmental systems. During lunch, Tom sat alone in a corner of the common area. He couldn't retreat to his chamber anymore. Everyone knew he wasn't going there for silicon regeneration now. He watched as other students shared energy and processed silicon, while he pretended his suit was feeding him processed materials. Is it true that you eat other life forms? A small plasma being named Spark had floated near his table, voice mixing curiosity with horror. We call it food, Tom replied quietly. And yes, but we grow most of it specially. The plasma being quickly drifted away before he could finish explaining, their form shivering with what looked like disgust. Later that day, Tom found a message on his computer terminal. Emergency Student Review Board Meeting. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Subject: Safety concerns regarding organic life form in exchange program. He sat heavily in his chair, reading the message again. They were going to kick him out. All his dreams of being part of the first human-alien exchange, of proving humans could work alongside advanced species, all of it was falling apart. That evening, as Tom sat alone in his room reviewing his notes, his terminal chimed. It was Blue, sending their first message since the revelation. Query: When you caught me during my destabilization event, your organic reflexes were faster than my emergency stabilization programs. How is this possible in a primitive species? Tom smiled slightly and typed back. Humans are full of surprises. We had to be quick to survive on Earth. Would you like to know more? There was a long pause before Blue responded. Your touch did not cause contamination as our studies suggested it would. Our data about organic life forms may be incomplete. There's a lot about humans that might surprise you, Tom wrote, if you're willing to learn. Another pause, longer this time. Finally, I am afraid, but also curious. Our project is still due next week. Perhaps we could meet in the library. The public space would be safer. Tom felt a small spark of hope. I'll be there. And Blue, thank you for being willing to talk. As he prepared for bed, another biological function that horrified his classmates, Tom thought about tomorrow's review board meeting. He had one chance to show them that being human, being organic, wasn't a weakness. It was just different. He looked at his environmental suit standing in the corner. For months it had helped him hide who he was. Maybe now it was time to show everyone exactly what a human could do. Through the wall, he could see Blue in their room, their crystal form showing patterns he'd never seen before. Fear mixed with curiosity, disgust swirling with fascination. Maybe, just maybe, there was still hope for understanding between their species. Blue sat in the university library's quantum database section, their crystalline form glowing softly in the dim light. Around them, dozens of holographic screens displayed Earth's history. They had been researching humans secretly for the past 3 days, ever since the review board had given them 1 week to decide whether to testify against Tom. Accessing Earth Historical Database. The computer chimed. Warning. Content contains organic life form activities. The screens filled with images that both fascinated and terrified Blue. Humans building cities without quantum technology. Humans crossing oceans in wooden boats. Humans flying with primitive machines before they had anti-gravity. They adapt, Blue muttered, their crystal structure vibrating with revelation. They don't wait for perfect solutions. They just try things. A message popped up on their screen. It was Tom. Still okay to meet about our project. Blue's patterns swirled with uncertainty, but they replied, yes, bringing interesting data. Tom arrived at their usual library table, still wearing his environmental suit even though everyone now knew what he was. Blue appreciated this small gesture of consideration for others' comfort. "I found something fascinating," Blue said, their voice harmonic patterns showing excitement despite their lingering fear. "Humans went from first powered flight to landing on their moon in just 66 years. My species took 400 years to attempt the same advancement." Tom sat down carefully, maintaining a respectful distance. "We're impatient sometimes. When we want something, we keep trying until we find a way." "But that's so dangerous." Blue's crystals chimed with concern. "You risk failure, injury, yet you achieve faster than light travel only 50 years after reaching your moon." "How?" "Because we're not afraid to fail," Tom explained. "Each failure teaches us something new. We call it trial and error." Blue projected more historical images between them. "Your species survived ice ages, predators, diseases, without any crystalline or energy-based advantages. Just organic matter and determination. We call it human spirit," Tom said quietly. "It's not about being primitive or advanced. It's about never giving up." Blue's crystal structure shifted, displaying patterns of deep thought. "In our project, your unusual solutions, they weren't from silicon-based logic at all. They were human creativity." "Yes," Tom admitted. "We're good at thinking outside the box because we had to be. Nature didn't give us crystal forms or energy patterns, so we learned to use our minds to solve problems." Blue absorbed this, literally. Their crystal form rippled with new understanding. "Your organic nature, it's not a weakness, is it? It's a different kind of strength." They projected their project work between them. Tom's primitive organic solutions had actually improved their design in ways Blue's crystalline logic would never have considered. "The review board wants me to testify about the dangers of having an organic being in the exchange program," Blue said suddenly, their voice harmonics showing distress. "They think you're unpredictable and dangerous." "Aren't we having a perfectly predictable and safe conversation right now?" Tom asked with a small smile in his voice. Blue's crystal structure vibrated with what might have been a laugh. "Yes, and I've been analyzing the database. There are no recorded incidents of humans attacking crystalline or energy beings, but there are hundreds of cases of humans helping other species, even at risk to themselves." They stood up, their crystal form now glowing with determination. "I have to show this to others. Your organic nature isn't primitive. It's just different, and different can be valuable." As Blue gathered their research data, they looked at Tom with new patterns forming in their crystal structure. "Human spirit," they said, testing the words. "Perhaps that's what our advanced species have forgotten while pursuing perfection. The value of trying, failing, and trying again." The review boardroom hummed with nervous energy. 5 administrators, 2 energy beings, 2 crystalline entities, and 1 plasma form floated behind the raised platform. Tom sat alone at the defendant's table, still wearing his environmental suit out of habit. "This emergency session will now begin," announced Dean Spark, her energy form crackling with authority. "We are here to discuss the presence of an organic life form in our exchange program. The safety of our students is our primary concern." The first speaker, Professor Light, moved forward. "The human student has demonstrated dangerous organic traits. They require constant fuel intake, produce waste materials, and exhibit unpredictable emotional responses. I recommend immediate removal from the program." Tom's heart sank. He had expected this, but it still hurt to hear. The second speaker, a crystalline professor, displayed warning patterns. "Their organic nature was hidden from us. How can we trust a species that relies on deception?" Just then, the door slid open. Blue floated in, their crystal form glowing brightly. "I request permission to present new evidence," Blue announced, their voice harmonics strong and clear. The board members vibrated with surprise. Dean Sparks' energy form flickered. "You were scheduled to testify about the dangers. I am here to testify about humanity's achievements instead," Blue interrupted, causing gasps from the assembled students watching from the back. And to demonstrate why we need humans in this program, Blue projected a series of images into the center of the room. Humans went from primitive wheeled vehicles to space travel in less than 100 years. They developed medical treatments without quantum healing. They built global communication networks without crystalline technology. The images kept coming. Human achievements, inventions, discoveries. Their organic nature doesn't make them primitive. It makes them innovative. They solve problems differently because they have to. One of the energy being administrators dimmed slightly. But their organic processes are exactly why we need them. Blue continued. Look at our joint project. They projected their engineering design. Tom's primitive organic thinking helped create an adaptive interface that works better than standard crystalline logic. Because humans don't think like us, they find solutions we miss. The plasma administrator moved forward. They are still dangerous, unpredictable. Blue's crystal form pulsed with intensity. When I destabilized during the storm, Tom caught me before I could shatter. His organic reflexes were faster than our safety protocols. His primitive hands were gentler than our stabilization fields. Blue turned to face the board directly. We call ourselves advanced, but we hide from anything different. Humans face the unknown and adapt. We perfect one solution. They find 100 new ones. That's not primitive. That's exactly what science needs. The room fell silent. Tom sat very still, hardly daring to breathe inside his suit. Dean Spark floated forward. You have spent significant time near this human. You are not contaminated. I am changed, Blue replied. Changed because I learned that different doesn't mean dangerous. Changed because I saw firsthand that organic life can be just as noble, just as capable, as any crystalline or energy form. Blue's crystal structure blazed with conviction. If we remove humans from this program, we prove that we are the primitive ones, too afraid of differences to learn from them. The board members withdrew to confer, their forms mixing together in intense discussion. Tom looked at Blue, wishing they could see his grateful smile through his suit. Finally, Dean Spark returned. After reviewing the evidence and considering the unprecedented nature of Blue's testimony, the board has reached a decision. The room grew still. Tom held his breath. Blue's crystal form pulsed with nervous light. The human student will be allowed to remain, Dean Spark announced. Furthermore, we will be reviewing our policies on organic life forms. Perhaps we have been too quick to judge what we don't understand. 3 months after the review board hearing, Central University had changed in ways nobody expected. Tom sat in the newly created multi-species cafeteria, eating a sandwich while Blue floated beside him, their crystal form shimmering with amusement as they watched other students' reactions. Still can't believe you actually eat that, said Spark, the plasma being now regularly joining them for meals. They watched in fascination as Tom took another bite. But it's somehow interesting to watch. The cafeteria now had separate sections for energy absorption, silicon processing, plasma charging, and yes, organic eating. After Tom's case, 5 more human students had been admitted to the exchange program, each bringing their own unique perspectives to their classes. Professor Light asked me an unusual question today. Blue said, their crystal structure showing happy patterns. She wanted to know why humans laugh. I didn't know how to explain it. Show them, Tom suggested, now comfortable enough to eat while talking. Blue projected a hologram of human children playing in a park, their laughter ringing through the cafeteria. Several energy beings dimmed their glow to watch more closely, fascinated by the pure joy in the sound. Organic emotions are so vibrant, commented Crystal, another student who had once been afraid of Tom but now worked with him on the student council. No wonder they advanced so quickly. They feel everything so strongly. Tom smiled as he watched a group of new students enter, 2 humans, 3 crystal beings, and an energy form, all chatting together like it was the most natural thing in the universe. His environmental suit lay unused in his room now. There was no need to hide anymore. Our Adaptive Interface project won the Galaxy Science Foundation Award, Blue announced proudly. They said combining human intuition with crystalline logic created something entirely new. They want us to present at the Galactic Science Conference next month. Speaking of combining things, Tom said, reaching into his bag. I have something for you, Blue. He pulled out a small device, a crystal formation grown in the shape of an earth flower, with organic patterns programmed into its structure. When Blue touched it, it glowed with the same patterns as human laughter. It's beautiful, Blue whispered, their whole form glowing with joy. How did you? Worked with the biology department, Tom explained. Turns out human DNA patterns can create amazing crystal formations. We're calling it biocrystalline art. The cafeteria had grown quiet as other students watched the crystal flower pulse with organic patterns. Even the most traditional crystal beings couldn't deny its beauty. You know what the best part is? Spark asked, their plasma form dancing with excitement. Next semester, they're starting organic biology classes. Optional, of course, but half the student body has already signed up. Tom looked around the cafeteria, at the mixed groups of students, at the signs in multiple languages and formats, at the way everyone had learned to adapt to each other's needs. 1 year ago, he had hidden his human nature in fear. Now, being human was just another way of being. Blue, he said suddenly, remember when you first found out I was human? You were terrified. Blue's crystal form shimmered with what was definitely laughter now. And now I'm terrified of how boring this place would be without humans. Your organic chaos makes everything more interesting. As if to prove their point, another human student accidentally dropped their drink, causing a chain reaction of energy beings dodging the liquid while crystal beings refracted light to create warning patterns. Instead of panic, the room filled with mixed sounds of laughter, crystal chimes, and energy pulses. Chaos and adaptation, Tom said, watching the scene with a smile. Maybe that's humanity's real gift to the galaxy. Blue touched the crystal flower again, making it pulse with patterns of friendship. No, Tom. Your gift was showing us that different isn't dangerous. It's wonderful. Now, are you going to explain why humans invented something called pizza? The whole crystalline science department is curious. Tom laughed, reaching for the cafeteria's menu. Some cultural exchanges, it seemed, were more delicious than others.